It's December 13th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with President Yoon Suk-yeol's justification of his martial law declaration. The South Korean leader defended his call to impose martial law as executive power and reaffirmed his commitment to fight to the end against opposition parties. Following the scrapping of the first motion to impeach President Yoon last Saturday, the main opposition camp is reporting a new motion to a plenary session today in order to put it to a vote by 5 p.m. Saturday. Ahead of the launch of Trump administration, Chinese President Xi Jinping expressed a willingness to seek healthy economic relations with the U.S., while President-elect Donald Trump has invited his Chinese counterpart to his inauguration next month. South Korea's parliament is set to hold another inquiry into President Yoon's martial law order case today, while the main opposition party is also expected to report a second impeachment motion on the same day. Our correspondent Shin-Ayoung leads us this morning.
The National Assembly will hold a plenary session on Friday to conduct an emergency inquiry into President Yoon Suk-yeol's martial law declaration on the night of December 3rd. Following the first inquiry 2 days ago, lawmakers expected to continue investigating the details of the case. Questions, particularly from opposition lawmakers, are likely to focus on President Yoon's public address the day before. The opposition has called for key officials, including Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok, Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol, and others to attend. Opposition parties are set to report a second impeachment motion against Yoon during the plenary session as well. That was introduced on Thursday with the aim of holding a vote on Saturday. Meanwhile, following Yoon's address on Thursday, the ruling People Power Party leader Han Dong-un on Thursday night called on the party's ethics committee to discuss Yoon's expulsion from the party. However, the committee failed to reach a conclusion, saying in a press release that it would proceed cautiously due to the seriousness of the matter. Expelling a sitting president is unprecedented, and many within the ruling party believe the committee is hesitant to make an immediate decision due to internal disagreements and potential fallout. Support for impeaching President Yoon is gaining momentum within the PPP after the party's leader officially backed the second impeachment motion just 2 days before the vote. For the impeachment to pass, at least 2/3 of the 300 lawmakers must approve it. Currently, there are 199 lawmakers from the main opposition Democratic Party and others, including 7 PPP members who support the motion to impeach the president. And with only one more vote needed, Han is urging party members to vote in favor of impeachment during the plenary session on Saturday. Shin-Ayoung, Arirang News.
And ahead of the second impeachment vote against President Yoon tomorrow, the main opposition Democratic Party Chairman Lee Jae-myung called on the ruling party lawmakers to support the impeachment motion. Lee made the remarks this morning, adding that Yoon's address yesterday showed he is unfit to carry out his duties. He also said that impeachment is the quickest and shortest way to end the turmoil. Referring to the impeachment vote, he emphasized that on Saturday the party will reaffirm that the country belongs to the people. Now, following his apology over the martial law order, President Yoon has spoken up, this time to defend the decree as an act of governance, rejecting insurrection charges against him. Our Oh Soo-young reports.
President Yoon Suk-yeol on Thursday defended his decision to impose martial law as his executive right and vowed to fight to the end against opposition forces. Breaking his days-long silence, Yoon delivered his position amid overwhelming calls for his resignation or impeachment and a criminal investigation over possible insurrection. He appeared to try to justify his judgment on December 3rd, calling it an act of governance to protect the country's constitutional order.
거대 야당이 헌법상 권한을 남용하여 위헌적 조치들을 계속 반복했지만 저는 헌법의 틀 내에서 대통령의 권한을 행사하기로 했습니다. 그 목적은 국민들에게 거대 야당의 반국가적 폐악을 알려 이를 멈추도록 경고하는 것이었습니다. 그럼으로써 자유민주주의 헌정 질서의 붕괴를 막고 국가 기능을 정상화하고자 하였습니다.
Such rhetoric comes as investigators close in on the president on charges of insurrection, and 2 days before the National Assembly votes on his impeachment. The leader said his decree came as a result of the opposition, which holds a parliamentary majority, trying to impeach him and his officials without any grounds, thereby undermining key policy efforts and paralysing the functions of government.
그 길밖에 없다고 판단해서 내린 대통령의 헌법적 결단이자 통치 행위가 어떻게 내란이 될 수 있습니까? 대통령의 비상계엄 선포권 행사는 사명권 행사, 외교권 행사와 같은 사법심사의 대상이 되지 않는 통치 행위입니다.
Yoon also slammed the National Election Commission for refusing to cooperate in an investigation of its system upon suspicion of hacking by North Korea before the April general election this year, which saw an opposition majority take hold. He warned that if opposition forces come to power, the country's law and order would collapse, future economic growth engines would wither, and the South Korea-US alliance, as well as their trilateral cooperation with Japan, would once again collapse. North Korea, he said, would further develop its nuclear weapons and missiles, posing a more serious threat to people's lives. Regarding his order to military troops to occupy the National Assembly, Yoon said he sent a small group of troops without lethal weapons to, quote, symbolically reveal the destructive behaviour of the opposition. He had no intention of shutting down Parliament, he said, arguing that if he had, then power and water supplies would have been cut off, and broadcast transmissions would have been restricted. Apologising for the anxiety caused, Yoon vowed to continue to fight the forces that threaten the future of South Korea and disrupt the constitution, indicating he would challenge efforts to charge and impeach him for imposing martial law. Lawmakers from the ruling People Power Party have already indicated that the president is not willing to step down and would rather face a court battle. Sources say his office has been moving to recruit a team of legal experts.
If Parliament impeaches him, Yoon and his team will have to counter both the insurrection charge and the impeachment proceedings simultaneously. The key questions will be whether there was an intent to undermine the constitutional order and also whether the actions amount to an insurrection. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Also on Thursday, police officers returned to the presidential office compound in Yongsan following their raid attempt the previous day. This time, they reportedly seized a secret phone used by the former defense minister. Our Choi Min-jung has this report.
Police returned to the presidential office compound on Thursday to look for and collect additional material related to the December 3rd martial law crisis. Thursday's search comes a day after the police officers' not-so-successful attempt at obtaining evidence from the compound. This time, police secured a secret phone used by former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun after 4 hours of searching the Defense Ministry located in the presidential compound. The phone is reportedly a mobile device equipped with anti-eavesdropping and anti-voice recording programs. Kim is believed to have used the phone to communicate with key figures when martial law was imposed. This was the first joint probe conducted since the formation of the Joint Investigation Headquarters among the police, the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials, and the Ministry of National Defense. Formed in a bid to streamline overlapping probes, the country's top investigative agencies also held their first meeting on Thursday. In a related development, police received relevant material from the Joint Chiefs of Staff on Thursday afternoon. The military stated that it is actively cooperating with the investigation. Separately, a special police team requested arrest warrants for National Police Agency Commissioner General Cho Ji-ho and Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency Chief Kim Bong-sik. They are facing charges of treason and are both accused of restricting lawmakers from accessing the National Assembly on December 3rd. The police team confirmed that the two met with President Yoon Suk-yeol and former Minister Kim hours before the martial law declaration to discuss related matters. Cho reportedly told investigators he received direct orders from President Yoon, including instructions to detain lawmakers, but claimed he refused to carry them out. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
South Korea's economy continues to see its inflation stabilizing, but with growing concerns over downward risks due to domestic and global uncertainties. That is, according to the latest Economic Green Book, a monthly economic assessment report released by the Finance Ministry on Friday. Consumer prices, a key gauge of inflation, advanced 1.5% on year, remaining below the 3% mark for the third straight month in November. And while the global economy is showing signs of recovery overall, geopolitical risks remain, as well as potential changes in trade conditions. Now, to address these challenges and the economic risks from the recent political instability in Korea, the Finance Ministry plans to continue working closely with relevant economic agencies, focusing on strengthening industrial competitiveness and ensuring economic stability. In other news, Chinese President Xi Jinping has highlighted the importance of dialogue between Beijing and Washington, while U.S. President-elect Donald Trump invited Xi to attend his inauguration in January. Our Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
Ahead of President-elect Donald Trump's January inauguration and his proposed high tariffs on China, Chinese President Xi Jinping has underscored the importance of economic and trade cooperation between the two nations. In a written congratulatory message for the U.S.-China Business Council's annual gala dinner held in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday local time, Xi called U.S.-China relations, quote, one of the most important bilateral relations in the world, saying that conversation and cooperation should be prioritized over competition and zero-sum games. He also highlighted China's commitment to staying in communication with the U.S. and finding a path toward coexistence in a new era. But it is yet unclear whether Xi would attend Trump's inauguration next month. Incoming White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed in an interview with Fox News on Thursday local time that an invitation was extended to Xi as part of Trump's efforts to create an open dialogue with both U.S. allies and competitors. Xi, however, said it has not been determined whether Xi will accept the invitation. As is customary for foreign dignitaries such as ambassadors, China's ambassador to the U.S. and his spouse are expected to attend the event on January 20. And Trump also once again made clear his desire to leverage his close relations with North Korea to navigate global issues. In an interview released by Time magazine on Thursday for his selection as its 2024 Person of the Year, Trump called the involvement of North Korea in the Russia-Ukraine war a, quote, complicating factor, but emphasized how he was the only one that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has ever, quote, dealt with. As he expressed his determination to negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine, he criticized its use of U.S. weapons as escalating the war, but said that he would not abandon Ukraine. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
The U.S. has included North Korea on its list of state sponsors of terrorism once again, stressing that the regime has repeatedly supported acts of international terrorism. Lee Seung-ja has more.
The U.S. State Department on Thursday released its annual list of state sponsors of terrorism. The 2023 Country Reports on Terrorism has included North Korea for the 8th straight year. The regime was first listed as a state sponsor of terrorism in 1988 for its involvement in the 1987 bombing of a Korean Air passenger flight. However, North Korea's designation was rescinded in 2008 after a legal review. In November 2017, the State Department added North Korea back onto the list, noting that the regime has repeatedly supported acts of international terrorism in the 9 years since being removed. The U.S. included examples of North Korea's support of terrorism, including the protection and sheltering of 4 Japanese Red Army members who are wanted by the Japanese government for their part in the 1970 Japan Airlines hijacking. The annual list has served as a guide for policy decisions on counterterrorism and includes Cuba, Iran, and Syria. Meanwhile, Washington is offering a reward of up to $5 million for information on 2 North Korean IT firms. Yanbian Silver Star Network Technology in China and Volasys Silver Star in Russia are accused of exploiting workers to generate revenue for the North. The U.S. State Department also named 14 people involved with the companies, including a single CEO of both firms and the presidents of the 2 companies. In its release, the U.S. accused the companies of generating revenue by deceiving U.S. and other businesses worldwide into hiring them as freelance IT workers. It added that the companies laundered their ill-gotten gains to benefit North Korea. The 14 individuals and other unnamed associates are known to have used stolen, borrowed, and purchased identities of hundreds of people in the U.S. in order to conceal their identities. Through those actions, they worked with some 130 North Korean IT workers to generate at least $88 million in illicit revenue for the regime. 이승재, Arirang News.
Good morning. I'm Kim Si-young, and now we move on to the world now. Now we begin today in Syria, where the new interim government announced on Thursday that it will suspend the country's constitution and parliament for a 3-month transition period, while vowing to institute rule of law following President Bashar al-Assad's ouster. Spokesperson Obaida Arnaud said a judicial and human rights committee will be formed to examine the constitution before the new amendments are introduced, adding that all those who committed crimes against the Syrian people will face judgment in accordance with the law. The G7 leaders have also shown support for Syria's transition, while stressing the importance of holding the Assad regime accountable for its crimes. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, while in Jordan on Thursday, stressed the importance of avoiding any additional conflicts in Syria, while speaking of recent Israeli and Turkish military activity in the Syrian territory. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres' spokesman also said that the UN chief is particularly concerned by the Israeli offenses. The European Central Bank has cut its interest rates for the 4th time and final time this year, lowering the deposit rate by 25 basis points to 3% on Thursday. Amid the bloc's faltering economic growth and political instability, exacerbated by the imminent threat of a U.S. trade tariff war, the ECB unanimously lowered the standard borrowing costs to 3% from 3.25%. Now, for main refinancing operations, such as banks that borrow from the ECB on a weekly basis, a new rate has been set at 3.15%, while an interest rate of 3.4% has been set for marginal lending facilities. The ECB President Christine Lagarde described the current situation as uncertainty in abundance, while a number of policymakers even suggested a half percentage point rate cut. Moreover, economists are anticipating further policy easing in 2025, as inflation is expected to settle at the ECB's 2% target early next year. Now moving over to Mexico, where millions of pilgrims gathered at the Basilica de Guadalupe in Mexico City to mark the 493rd anniversary of the Virgin of Guadalupe's feast day on Thursday. People walked for days to reach the basilica in a centuries-old tradition of religious devotion. Now, enormous crowds gathered early morning on Thursday to sing the Mexican birthday song Las Mañanitas to honor Our Lady of Guadalupe. According to Mexico City's Mayor Clara Brugada, a total of around 11.5 million pilgrims had visited the Basilica de Guadalupe by Thursday morning. Now, the second most visited Catholic shrine in the world, it was constructed to honor an apparition of the Virgin Mary experienced by a peasant named Juan Diego in 1531. Lastly, dinosaur fossils have fetched millions of dollars at an auction in London. 3 dinosaur skeletons offered by auction house Christie's on Thursday sold for almost $16 million as part of the Jurassic icons Allosaurus and Stegosaurus auction. Excavated in Wyoming, the skeletons included an adult and juvenile Allosaurus, which was sold as a pair for around $10.3 million, while a Stegosaurus skeleton was sold for $5.4 million. Now, previously in July this year, a Stegosaurus fossil went under the hammer for $44.6 million at a Sotheby's auction, setting a new record.
We have snow and rain in the forecast in the western parts of Korea today. Mountainous regions in Jeju and Ulleungdo and Dokdo could receive 10 to 30 centimeters of snowfall into tomorrow. Chungcheongdo and Jeollado provinces could also see up to 7 centimeters. Now, the rest of the western regions could see rain instead. Jeju seeing up to 30 millimeters of showers. Meanwhile, Seoul could see sleet around lunchtime. Today's precipitation will bring bitterly cold air to the country, dragging down the feels-like temperatures in most parts. Seoul gets up to 4 degrees, Daegu at 8 degrees Celsius. As for the capital, brace for the coldest morning of the season on Saturday at a low of -4 degrees, but it will stay sunny through the weekend. Meanwhile, a mix of rain and snow in western parts of Korea and Jeju will continue into Sunday. It will only get colder as we are getting close to midwinter, so please take good care. Well, that's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That wraps up our morning edition of Arirang News. Thanks for watching.